The text message glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign advertising betrayal. I'm not going to report on where I spend my time. I stared at those words, sitting in my cluttered architecture studio at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, surrounded by half-finished blueprints and empty whiskey bottles. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent the last 15 years designing homes for happy families, while my own marriage crumbled like poorly mixed concrete. "There's no need," I typed back, my fingers steady despite the rage building in my chest. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Lucas Mitchell, and I'm a 48-year-old architect living in the kind of mid-sized northeastern city where everyone knows everyone's dirty laundry. The place feels like Stephen King's fictional towns, all surface charm hiding rot underneath. Tonight, I was about to discover just how rotten things had become. I opened the location tracking app on my laptop. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But when your wife of 20 years starts working late showings 5 nights a week and comes home smelling like expensive cologne that isn't yours, you get curious. The little blue dot showed Vanessa's phone at Chez Laurent, the trendy French bistro downtown. Not exactly prime real estate territory for evening appointments. My wife Vanessa is 36, ambitious as hell, and works for Premier Realty downtown. She's got that polished, social media perfect look that screams successful realtor, blonde highlights, designer clothes, and a smile that could sell swampland to a city planner. We've got 2 teenagers, Emma and Jake, who barely acknowledge my existence anymore. I pulled up our shared credit card account. 3 charges at Chez Laurent in the past 2 weeks. 2 at the Marriott downtown. 1 at Victoria's Secret that definitely wasn't for me. I would have remembered. The evidence painted a picture clearer than any architectural drawing I'd ever drafted. My loving wife was screwing around, and she wasn't even being subtle about it. I grabbed my jacket and keys. Time for some field research. The drive downtown took 15 minutes through streets that looked tired and worn, like everything else in this city. Streetlights cast sickly yellow pools on cracked asphalt. The kind of place where dreams come to fade, slow, painful. I parked across from Chez Laurent and spotted Vanessa's silver BMW immediately. Through the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see her at a corner table, leaning across the white tablecloth toward a man I recognized from her office Christmas parties. Ethan something or other. Mid-40s, drives a Mercedes, wears suits that cost more than most people's mortgage payments. Watching your wife flirt with another man is like watching a building collapse in slow motion. You know it's happening. You can't stop it, but you can't look away either. She was doing that thing where she touches her neck when she laughs, the same gesture that made me fall for her 23 years ago. I sat in my car for 30 minutes documenting everything with my phone's camera. Timestamps, angles, facial expressions. An architect's attention to detail applied to adultery. They held hands across the table. He paid the check. They walked to his Mercedes together. My phone buzzed with another text from Vanessa. "Showing ran late. Home by midnight. Don't wait up." I laughed out loud, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed in my empty car. Don't wait up. How considerate of her. I drove home to our house in Maple Grove, a subdivision I'd helped design 12 years ago when we still talked about the future in terms of we instead of I. The house felt different now, like walking into a museum of a marriage that had faded without anyone bothering to hold a funeral. I went straight to my home office and fired up my computer. If Vanessa wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong opponent. I might be an underdog in the romance department, but I was a professional when it came to research and planning. I spent the next 4 hours building a case file that would make a private investigator weep with joy. Bank statements, location data, social media posts, credit card receipts, all cross-referenced and organized in a spreadsheet that told the story of a marriage's death by 1,000 cuts. The pattern was clear. For the past 3 months, every Tuesday and Thursday, Vanessa had been meeting Ethan, sometimes for dinner, sometimes at hotels, always lying about it afterward. She'd even used our joint account to pay for lingerie she'd never worn for me. At 3 a.m., Vanessa's BMW pulled into our driveway. I listened to her heels click across the hardwood floors, heard her pause outside my office door. She didn't knock. "Lucas?" she called softly. "You still awake?" "Just finishing up some work," I replied, my voice steady. "How was your showing?" "Oh, you know, difficult clients. They couldn't make up their minds about the kitchen layout." I stared at the photos on my computer screen. Images of her kissing Ethan in the restaurant parking lot 2 hours ago. "That's too bad," I said. "Maybe they'll figure it out eventually." "Yeah, maybe they will. I'm going to bed." "Sleep well, honey." I listened to her footsteps fade down the hallway, then returned to my computer. I had work to do. By dawn, I'd printed everything. Photos, bank statements, location logs, text message screenshots, all organized in a manila folder thick enough to choke a horse. I also prepared a second set of documents that would make Vanessa's morning very interesting. I showered, shaved, and put on my best suit. If you're going to destroy someone's world, you might as well look professional doing it. I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and drove to Premier Realty. Through the glass storefront, I could see Vanessa at her desk, probably texting Ethan about their next romantic rendezvous. She looked beautiful in her navy business suit, hair perfectly styled, completely unaware that her world was about to implode. I walked into the office carrying my manila folder like a briefcase full of dynamite. "Lucas!" Vanessa's face lit up with surprise. "What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd take my beautiful wife to lunch," I said loud enough for her co-workers to hear. "You know, do something spontaneous for once." Her smile faltered slightly. "That's sweet, but I have appointments this afternoon." "Cancel them." I placed the folder on her desk with deliberate care. "Trust me, this is more important." She glanced at the folder nervously. "What's that?" "Open it." Vanessa's hands trembled slightly as she lifted the cover. I watched her face cycle through confusion, recognition, horror, and finally, resigned defeat. The first photo showed her and Ethan holding hands at Chez Laurent. The second showed them kissing beside his Mercedes. The third was a bank statement highlighting their romantic expenses. "Lucas, I can explain—" "No need," I said, my voice calm as a lake before a storm. "The evidence speaks for itself. 3 months of Tuesday and Thursday showings that somehow always happened at restaurants and hotels. Very creative real estate strategy." The office had gone silent. Every agent, secretary, and client was staring at us, like we were the featured attraction at a car accident. "Please, can we discuss this at home?" Vanessa whispered, her perfect composure cracking. "Why? Afraid your colleagues might discover you've been mixing business with pleasure? Don't worry. I'm sure they already suspected." I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a whisper only she could hear. "Did you really think you could outsmart an architect? Someone who makes a living paying attention to details?" I straightened up and addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. My wife has been conducting some very thorough property inspections with her colleague Ethan. I'm sure you understand the importance of hands-on research in the real estate business." Vanessa's face turned crimson. "Lucas, stop." "Oh, I'm just getting started." I pulled out a second folder and placed it beside the first. Divorce papers, already filed, and documentation showing that I've frozen our joint accounts pending asset division. Wouldn't want any more unauthorized lingerie purchases. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. "By the way, Vanessa, you might want to call Ethan. His wife received a very interesting package this morning. Same photos, same bank statements. I thought she deserved to know what kind of man she married. The last thing I heard as I walked out was Vanessa's strangled sob and the excited whispers of her coworkers. Phase 1 complete. I drove to Kyle's boxing gym, a rundown place in the industrial district where I used to work out before marriage, and career consumed my life. Kyle Patterson had been my best friend since college, a former Golden Gloves boxer who now trained kids and ran a small bar attached to the gym. Lucas? Kyle looked up from wrapping a teenager's hands. Haven't seen you in 2 years? I need to hit something, I said. Hard. He took one look at my face and nodded. Tommy, take 5. We'll finish later. Kyle was the kind of friend who didn't ask stupid questions when you showed up looking like you'd been hit by a freight train. He just handed me gloves and pointed to the heavy bag. I spent an hour beating the hell out of that bag, imagining Ethan's smug face with every punch. Kyle held the bag steady, letting me work out 20 years of accumulated frustration. Feel better? He asked when I finally stopped. Getting there. I pulled off the gloves, my knuckles raw but my head clearer than it had been in months. Vanessa's been cheating. Found out last night. Shit, man, I'm sorry. Don't be. Best thing that's happened to me in years. Now I know why she's been so distant, so critical, so damn cold. It wasn't me. It was her guilty conscience. Kyle handed me a beer from the bar's mini fridge. What are you going to do? Already started. Served her divorce papers this morning, in front of her entire office. Jesus, Lucas, that's brutal. She earned it. I took a long drink, savoring the bitter taste. 20 years, Kyle. 20 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, shared dreams, and she throws it away for some pretty boy with a German car. What about Emma and Jake? That hit harder than any punch I'd thrown. Our kids. Emma was 17, Jake 15. They'd be caught in the middle of this mess. They'll choose sides, I said quietly. Probably hers. She's always been the fun parent, the one who says yes to everything. I'm just the guy who pays the bills and fixes things when they break. You don't know that. Yeah, I do, but that's okay. I'd rather they know the truth about their mother than live in a house built on lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. We need to talk. Please come home. I showed Kyle the message. He whistled low. You going? Eventually, but first I have some more research to do. Turns out our friend Ethan has quite a reputation around town. 3 different women have mentioned him on social media in the past 6 months. All married, all clients of Premier Realty. You're going nuclear, aren't you? I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. Kyle, my friend, I'm not going nuclear. I'm going architectural, systematic, methodical, and built to last. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into the Hampton Inn downtown and ordered room service while I planned my next moves. Vanessa left 17 voicemails and sent 43 text messages, ranging from tearful apologies to angry demands to threats of legal action. I listened to exactly none of them. Instead, I spent the evening researching Ethan Morrison. Yes, I finally remembered his last name. Social media made it easy. The man documented his life like he was running for office. Expensive dinners, luxury vacations, photos of his BMW and his boat and his golf game. All funded by a job selling real estate in a city where the average house price was dropping faster than my opinion of my wife. More interesting were the comments on his posts. Women, always married women, leaving flirty messages and heart emojis. I cross-referenced their names with Premier Realty's client database, which Vanessa had foolishly saved on our shared computer. Ethan wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was running a one-man escort service for bored housewives, and they were all paying him through real estate commissions on houses they'd never buy. I made a list of names and phone numbers, 12 women, 12 marriages, 12 families about to learn some very uncomfortable truths. The next morning, I drove to Premier Realty to find Vanessa's BMW in the parking lot beside Ethan's Mercedes. How romantic. Star-crossed lovers united in their stupidity. I didn't go inside. Instead, I called Derek Hoffman, the agency's owner and Vanessa's boss. Derek was old-school real estate, expensive suits, gold watch, handshake deals, and zero tolerance for anything that might damage his reputation. Derek, it's Lucas Mitchell, Vanessa's husband. Lucas, how are you? I heard there was some excitement at the office yesterday. That's actually why I'm calling. I think you should know that Vanessa and Ethan have been using Premier Realty as their personal dating service. I have documentation showing they've been billing fake appointments to cover their affair, and I suspect they're involved in some creative commission arrangements with female clients. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. When Derek spoke again, his voice was ice cold. What kind of documentation? Photos, bank records, client lists, social media evidence. I can email everything to you in the next 5 minutes. Do it. I sent Derek the files while sitting in the parking lot, watching through the office windows as he opened the email at his desk. His face went through the same progression as Vanessa's had: confusion, recognition, fury. Derek stood up, walked to Vanessa's desk, and said something that made her face go white. Then he walked to Ethan's desk and said something that made Ethan's face go red. Within minutes, both of them were in Derek's office with the door closed. My phone rang. Lucas, this is Derek. I need you to come in here, now. On my way. I walked into Premier Realty like I owned the place. Derek's office door was still closed, but I could hear raised voices inside. The other agents were pretending to work, while obviously straining to eavesdrop. Derek opened his door and motioned me inside. Vanessa sat in one chair, tears streaming down her face. Ethan sat in another, looking like he'd swallowed a live grenade. Lucas, I need to ask you some questions, Derek said. Are you planning to take this to the police? Depends on what they've actually done. Adultery isn't illegal, but fraud is. Ethan spoke for the first time. There's no fraud. Everything was consensual. I laughed. Consensual? Tell that to the 12 married women whose husbands are getting phone calls today. Tell that to your wife, who's probably talking to a divorce attorney right now. You son of a bitch, Ethan snarled, starting to rise from his chair. Sit down, Derek snapped. Both of you, shut up and listen. Lucas, what do you want? Justice. Ethan gets fired, loses his real estate license, and leaves town. Vanessa gets fired and finds a new career. I get an uncontested divorce and full custody of my kids. That's not happening, Vanessa said. You can't take my children. Watch me. I've got documentation showing you spent 3 months lying to them about where you were every Tuesday and Thursday night. What judge is going to award custody to a mother who teaches her kids that lying and cheating are acceptable? Derek held up his hand. Here's what's going to happen. Ethan, you're fired. Clean out your desk and get out. I'll be reporting this to the state licensing board. Vanessa, you're on unpaid leave pending investigation. If I find any evidence of fraudulent billing or inappropriate client relationships, you're fired too. Derek, please. Vanessa started. No. You've embarrassed my agency and potentially exposed us to lawsuits. You're lucky I'm not pressing charges myself. Ethan stood up, his face twisted with rage. This isn't over, Mitchell. Yes, it is, I said calmly. Unless you want your wife to learn about the other 11 women. I've got their names, phone numbers, and bank records showing payments to you through fake real estate transactions. How do you think that's going to play in divorce court? Ethan's face went pale. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out without another word. Derek turned to Vanessa. Go home. Don't come back until you hear from me. Vanessa looked at me with a mixture of hatred and desperation. I hope you're happy. Getting there, I said, but I'm not done yet. Word travels fast in a small city, especially when it involves closeness, money, and public humiliation. By the end of the week, everyone knew about Vanessa's affair and Ethan's firing. The local newspaper even ran a story about ethics violations at Premier Realty, though they didn't name names. I moved back into the house. Vanessa had been staying at her sister Julia's place, which was perfect because Julia was the biggest gossip in 3 counties. By now, half the city knew the intimate details of my wife's betrayal. Emma and Jake were handling it about as well as you'd expect. Emma, my 17-year-old, had inherited her mother's dramatic flair and was treating the divorce like a personal attack on her social status. Jake, 15 and more pragmatic, seemed relieved that the tension in the house finally had an explanation. Dad? Jake found me in my office on Friday night, working on blueprints for a new shopping center. Are you and Mom really getting divorced? Yeah, son, we are. Because she was cheating with that guy from her work? I put down my pencil and looked at him. Where did you hear that? Everyone's talking about it. Kids at school, their parents. Emma's been crying all week. I'm sorry you have to deal with this, Jake. I know it's not fair. Is it true, though? Did Mom really cheat on you? I could have lied. Could have given him some sanitized version about growing apart or irreconcilable differences. But I'd had enough of lies. Yes, your mother had an affair with a man named Ethan Morrison. It went on for 3 months. Jake nodded slowly. That sucks. Yeah, it does. Are you okay? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked me that? I'm getting there. Some days are better than others. For what it's worth, I think Mom was stupid. You're a good dad. I felt something break loose in my chest, a knot of pain I'd been carrying for months. Thanks, Jake. That means more than you know. My phone rang. Kyle's name on the caller ID. Lucas, you need to get down to the quarry now. The quarry was Kyle's bar attached to his boxing gym. Why? What's wrong? Ethan's here, he's drunk and he's running his mouth about you and Vanessa. It's getting ugly. I looked at Jake. I have to go deal with something. Will you be okay here? Yeah. Go handle your business, Dad. The quarry was exactly the kind of dive bar you'd expect to find attached to a boxing gym. Dim lighting, scarred wooden tables, and the lingering smell of sweat and beer. Ethan was holding court at the bar, regaling a small crowd with his version of recent events. Guy's a complete psycho, he was saying as I walked in. Stalked his own wife, broke into her email, probably planted cameras in their bedroom. Who does that? Someone whose wife is screwing around, called out a voice from the crowd. She wasn't screwing around, Ethan slurred. She was leaving him, had been planning it for months. I was just helping her through a difficult time. I walked up to the bar and ordered a whiskey. That's an interesting interpretation of events. Ethan spun around on his stool, nearly falling off. Well, if it isn't the stalker himself. The bar went quiet. Kyle appeared at my elbow, ready to intervene if things went sideways. I prefer architect, I said calmly. Though I can see how you'd confuse the two. Both require attention to detail and long-term planning. You destroyed my life, you bastard. No, Ethan, you destroyed your own life when you decided to sleep with married women for money. I just documented it. He stood up unsteadily. You want to say that again? Which part? The part where you seduced 12 different married women, or the part where you billed their husbands for fake real estate appointments while you screwed their wives? Ethan swung at me, a clumsy, telegraphed punch that I saw coming from across the room. I stepped aside, and he stumbled into the bar. Easy there, Romeo, I said. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself. Your wife's going to need you healthy for the divorce proceedings. My wife left me because of you. Your wife left you because you're a cheating piece of garbage who got caught. I just provided the evidence. He swung again. This time I didn't move. The punch caught me in the jaw, not hard enough to do real damage, but enough to sting. The bar erupted in shouts and moving bodies as Kyle and 2 other guys grabbed Ethan. I touched my lip. Thanks for that. Now I can press assault charges, too. You son of a bitch! Ethan struggled against the men holding him. I'll eliminate you! No, you won't, I said, my voice calm. You know why? Because you're a coward who preys on lonely housewives. You've never faced a real fight in your life. I stepped closer, ignoring Kyle's warning hand on my shoulder. Here's what's going to happen, Ethan. You're going to leave this bar, leave this city, and disappear. Because if I see you again, if I hear you've contacted Vanessa or any of those other women, I'll make sure every person in this city knows exactly what kind of man you are. I'll put your photo on billboards with the words "Home Wrecker" underneath. I'll send copies of our evidence to every real estate agency in the state. I'll make you unemployable. You can't do that. Watch me. I'm an architect, remember? I specialize in building things that last. Kyle and his friends escorted Ethan to the door. He turned back once, his face twisted with hatred and humiliation. This isn't over, Mitchell. Yes, I said. It is. 3 weeks later, Vanessa finally came home. I was in the kitchen making coffee when she walked through the front door like she still lived there. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a wrinkled sweater instead of her usual designer outfits. We need to talk, she said. About what? The divorce papers are pretty straightforward. About our children, about this house, about 20 years of marriage that you're throwing away over one mistake. I poured myself coffee, didn't offer her any. One mistake? Vanessa, you had a 3-month affair. You lied to me, to our kids, to your co-workers. You spent our money on hotel rooms and lingerie for another man. That's not one mistake. That's a systematic betrayal. She sat down at the kitchen table where we'd eaten thousands of meals as a family. I know I screwed up, Lucas. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. No, we can't. You know why? Because I don't love you anymore. The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. You don't mean that. I do. For months I thought something was wrong with me. You were so cold, so distant, so critical of everything I did. I blamed myself. Thought maybe I was a bad husband, a boring partner. Turns out you were just guilty and looking for excuses to justify what you were doing. Lucas, please. The funny thing is, I'm grateful. Your affair showed me what our marriage really was. A business arrangement that ran out of profit. You got bored, found someone more exciting, and decided to trade up. The only mistake you made was getting caught. Vanessa started crying. Real tears this time, not the calculated waterworks she'd used during our earlier confrontations. I love you, she whispered. No, you don't. You love the life I provided, the house, the financial security, the social status of being married to a successful architect. But you don't love me. If you did, you never would have started screwing Ethan in the first place. What about Emma and Jake? What about them? They're old enough to understand that actions have consequences. Emma's already figured out that her social problems stem from having a mother who became the town's biggest scandal. Jake just wants the fighting to stop. I sat down across from her, studying the face I'd once thought I'd grow old with. Here's what's going to happen, Vanessa. You're going to sign the divorce papers without contest. I'm keeping the house, the kids, and most of our assets. You're going to find a new job in a new city and start over. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would be me sending copies of your hotel receipts to Emma's school friends. Fair would be me posting your text messages with Ethan on social media. Fair would be me making sure everyone in this city knows exactly what kind of mother and wife you really are. Her face went white. You wouldn't. Try me. I've got nothing left to lose, Vanessa. My marriage is over, my reputation's already shot, and my kids are going to need therapy regardless of what I do next. But you've still got a chance to salvage something if you're smart about it. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact instant she realized I wasn't bluffing. What do you want me to do? Sign the papers. Tonight. Then pack your things and leave. I'll give you 2 weeks to find a place, then I'm changing the locks. And if I don't? I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo, Ethan's Mercedes with "Home Wrecker," spray painted across the windshield. I did that last Tuesday night. Took me 15 minutes. Amazing what you can accomplish when you put your mind to it. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the divorce papers. You've changed, Lucas. You used to be kind. I used to be naive. There's a difference. She signed every page without reading them, her tears smearing the ink. When she finished, she looked up at me with something that might have been regret. I did love you, you know. In the beginning. I know, but love isn't enough when it's only coming from one person. After she left, I sat alone in the kitchen, listening to the house settle around me. Emma was at her friend's house, probably complaining about her terrible parents. Jake was upstairs doing homework, pretending he hadn't heard every word of our conversation. My phone buzzed with a text from Kyle. How did it go? It's over, I typed back. She signed. You okay? I looked around the kitchen, at the family photos on the refrigerator, the coffee mug Vanessa had left on the counter, the empty chair where she'd sat for the last time. Getting there, I replied. For the first time in months, that felt like the truth. 6 months later, I was designing a new office building downtown when Derek Hoffman called. Lucas, I've got a proposition for you. I'm listening. I'm expanding Premier Realty, opening a second location. I need someone to design it, someone who understands the business, someone I can trust. I almost laughed. Derek, I'm probably the last person you want associated with your company. Actually, you're exactly the person I want. Word's gotten around about how you handled the situation with Vanessa and Ethan. Methodical, professional, no unnecessary drama. That's the kind of problem-solving I need in my business. What happened to Ethan anyway? Moved to Florida. Last I heard, he was selling used cars in Tampa. Vanessa's working for a small agency in Albany. Neither one of them is my problem anymore, thanks to you. I accepted Derek's offer. The new building opened 8 months later. A clean, modern design with floor-to-ceiling windows and an open floor plan that discouraged the kind of private meetings that had caused so much trouble. Emma graduated high school and went to college in Boston, as far from the family scandal as she could get. We talk once a week now, and she's slowly forgiven me for destroying her perfect suburban fantasy. Jake stayed with me, and we've become closer than we ever were when Vanessa was around. I never saw Vanessa again after that night in the kitchen. She sends birthday cards to the kids and calls them occasionally, but she's essentially erased herself from our lives. Maybe that's for the best. As for me, I'm dating again. A teacher named Sarah who thinks my story is romantic in a twisted way. She likes that I'm loyal, methodical, and don't tolerate lies. Turns out those are attractive qualities to women who've been burned by charming sociopaths. I'm designing houses again, but now I pay attention to different details, strong foundations, secure locks, and always, separate home offices with their own internet connections. Trust, as I learned, is a luxury that requires constant verification. The best revenge, they say, is living well. But sometimes the best revenge is simply being the kind of man who builds things to last while other people tear them down. I built a new life from the ashes of my old one, brick by brick, blueprint by blueprint. And this time, I made sure the foundation was strong enough to withstand any storm.